My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talent in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have the head coach of Uconn Avery Point, part of the JUCO, Coach Ian Ratchford. Coach Ratchford, thanks so much for being able to come on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, Coach. I think, for people who may not know, the last name, I've had your father on, who's the head coach at Danbury. He's built quite the program there. He's well respected amongst baseball people in Connecticut. So for you specifically, I know this is not about your coaching side, but I just kind of want to know, for you to be under his tutelage at a young age, being his son, how was that? Because he's a plethora of baseball knowledge.
Yeah, it was a tremendous opportunity. He coached me from obviously when I was a kid and when going up through travel ball, all that from 9 years old up through high school. So uh, kind of take for granted sometimes. You don't realize that your dad. You think he's dad, but you don't realize necessarily how much knowledge he really has until you get older and you're like, wow, he was on to something.
Now, how was it? Was he the kind of father that would, because he knew so much about baseball, I'm sure there were times where he maybe didn't agree with certain coaches who were coaching you or such. Or was he kind of more like, you know what? I'm going to let my son learn. This is his time. I've had my time. I just want to be a father, not his coach, because you kind of need to have that separation.
Yeah, no, he was always great. He always separated father and coach. Never had that issue. I sometimes didn't necessarily have it when I got back home, but he was always good about separating it. Even when I went on in college or summer ball or whatever it might be, he kind of is one of those guys out in the outfield, seat back out there, just kind of relaxing, doing his own thing, enjoying it. So he was lucky to have that.
So, for people who may not know, kind of take me into your career as far as baseball. Where did you play high school, college? Where did you play in the summer? Because I'd love to hear it. And I think everybody else would as well.
Yeah, so I played at Danbury High School for my dad, like you mentioned. Then I actually played here at Avery Point for Roger Bidwell, who's a Hall of Famer, 1,000 wins. Another phenomenal coach to learn under. Then I finished up at Post University in Waterbury. And then summer ball, all over the place. Played for the Westerners for a little bit for Jamie Shevick. Played out in Arizona a couple summers, out in Iowa. So kind of all over the place, wherever I could go play.
And how was that playing? Because, like you mentioned, you were Danbury, then you go to Uconn Avery Point, then you go to Waterbury with Postus, and then you're playing all around in the summer, like you mentioned, back at Danbury, Arizona, and such. How was that? Because, again, I think playing the game of baseball is a little bit different than playing basketball or even football, because football doesn't really have a minor leagues. Because in baseball, you're traveling, you're seeing different parts of that. I know basketball you can to a certain degree, but baseball, there's so much travel. You really kind of figure out who you are as a person pretty quickly, no?
Yeah, you do. Like you mentioned, when I was 16, I actually went out to Dubuque, Iowa to play. So as a 16-year-old, was out there pretty much all by myself for 2 months. It forced you to grow up quickly. Baseball is a great teacher in general. You learn how to deal with failure early on. Even in little league, half the time you're going to get out. So it was tremendous for me. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Just like you said, it was a great opportunity to learn who I was. You get a little bit of isolation sometimes, so you're kind of in your own thoughts sometimes, but it forces you to think about a lot of different things.
Now, during your journey, was there ever a point where you thought that coaching was going to be an opportunity? Or did you, or, was your mind ever set on, what, I want to do everything I can to get drafted? Or did you know early on that getting drafted may or may not be the case for you?
I think as a young kid, every kid kind of has those dreams growing up that, hey, I want to be a professional baseball player. But even when I did have those dreams, I kind of knew eventually I wanted to get into the coaching side of things. And like you said, kind of had a pretty good role model to learn from. So I kind of always figured when I was done, I wanted to get back into coaching.
And when you were playing, did you ever, in your conversations with your dad or with the legendary coach you kind of point for you, did they ever say to you or mention how, coaching attributes ever say like, you have kind of that coaching mindset?
Um, a little bit, not too much. I think I knew I kind of had the itch for it early on when I would always ask a lot of questions. So that was probably, I mean, my dad was used to it, but when I played for Coach Bidwell, I would kind of ask questions, ask why are you doing this, like what was your process on this, and not in like a way of questioning him, but I was just like I want to learn as much about the game as possible, and that can be another asset and another tool for me to have. So I think they probably saw that early on, but they never really had that conversation per se.
And when your playing career was over, where did you get your first opportunity to coach? Was it back in Danbury? Was it for a summer team? Where was it?
So actually, my senior year at Post, I had to take classes before I graduated. So I ended up coaching the Connecticut Rangers, who I played AAU for. So that was kind of my first taste of coaching. I got to coach with my best friend Dean White, who's the head coach at Immaculate High. And then actually the following year, I thought my dad was going to kick me out of the house forever. I coached JV baseball at Richfield High.
Oh, why did you do that? Oh, why would you do that?
No, honestly, so Greg Palonzo was coaching there at the time. He played for my dad, played over in Italy for a long time. He asked me if I wanted to coach, and then I was like, I would love to, but let me ask my dad to make sure he doesn't want to kill me. But my dad was supportive. He goes, no, it's good if you want to get into coaching, you should learn from as many different people as possible, and he supported it. So it was definitely a little weird being on the other side of the rivalry there, but it was a good experience.
And your dad knows a whole lot about having coaches on his staff. I mean, when I had him on, he could not. He talked more about the coaches on his staff than he did himself. About how he takes guys on. He helps them. He learns from them as they learn from him, and then they branch off to do other things. And it's so impressive that he sees the staff that he has and can work with them.
Yeah, I don't know if he mentioned it at all, but he has a book, A Team of Rivals by Abe Lincoln. And that kind of gets into bringing on as many qualified people as possible. And a lot of times coaches don't necessarily want to bring on people that are as qualified or more qualified than him. But if you want your team to be successful, you gotta throw the ego out, and you could always learn something in baseball. There's always something that somebody does, and he always has asked questions. That's probably where I got it from. But he understands that having that support system is tremendous. So he's always been that way as long as I can remember, from Choppy Pippa, Bobby DiNardo. I mean, I'm missing a ton of people here that he's had. I'm sure he probably went over all of them, but even when I was young, I remember him just always bringing on quality coaches.
No, it's great to be able to kind of check your ego at the door and know that if you want to have a sustained success, you have to not feel threatened if you feel like either somebody you're bringing on who's younger or maybe older, but either knows more or just has maybe something more into the game. You know what I'm saying? And I think for him to realize that is is great. And I'm sure it kind of, if it kind of went on you, I would think even at an early age for your coaching career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been lucky to be around a lot of great coaches. Even like you just mentioned, my dad's assistant coach is Ken Reed, who was there with him forever. John Wren, who was the longtime New Milford coach. I played for Joe Garbowski. I was kind of always the same assumption that the more baseball knowledge you get around you, the better off you're going to be. So I've tried to do the same. I mean, like I said, played for Roger Bidwell, who was 1,000 wins Hall of Famer. It was cool. I got to coach with Dave Fleming, former major league pitcher for about 7-8 years from AAPAC. Got to coach with him. John Susi at Westcon, who's won a ton of games. Joe Tinelli at UB. Frank Mealy at Westcon, who was a long time AAPAC high coach, who's got a ton of sectionals and district titles over there too. So I think you're cutting yourself short if you don't ask questions and try to be around as many great baseball guys as you can. There's more than one way to skin a cat, so getting other people's insights is really important.
So you're a JV coach at Ridgefield, and how long were you there for?
One season.
One
One
season.
season.
So where did you go after that?
So actually, my former roommate at the time, Zach Dandre, who played at WestCon, I was giving lessons out of the batting cage in town, and then Chris Alberto, who was at WestCon and went down to Marywood University, had left, who was another friend, um, and then they said that WestCon might need a coach. So I was jokingly saying, "Hey, tell Coach Susi that I want to coach at WestCon." And then the next day I got a call asking if I wanted to coach at WestCon. I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." So it was kind of I was serious, but I wasn't expecting any quick return like that. So that's kind of how this whole thing got started.
So what year did you coach at WestCon? Or what year did you coach at WestCon for?
Let's see, 2016, 17, and 18.
Okay, so right before, because I graduated in 2015, but I only have one college win in my entire career. That's against WestCon.
Really?
Because I came in relief. We were down 7-0. I came in relief. Mind you, Thunder Bierfeld was on that team.
Okay.
And I don't know how, and that lineup was really good that year. And I somehow kept them to no runs the entire game. And I got taken out, 2 outs with the bases loaded. Thankfully, my reliever came in and shut the door. So my earned runs were 0. But yeah, whenever WestCon's mentioned, I'm like, yeah, they're the one win I have in my college career. So
Love that. Love that. I got to get it in there.
have to, and especially Connor Bierfeld, who got drafted. I know his career didn't go the way everybody wanted, for him. But to go against a guy who was drafted, I mean, Westcott must have been thrilled to have a player like that have an opportunity, to play in the show.
Yeah, no, I actually through Zach and Alberto knew Connor fairly well too. Played some men's league basketball at the War Memorial with him. Stud athlete, just extremely gifted, but he worked so hard too. And he was his younger brother. I actually coached Shane. He was a pitcher for us.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always coming back and giving back, which was great. And like you said, it was a phenomenal experience to get to have somebody in a program to come back who was 2-time LEC Player of the Year and get drafted. And it's not every program has that, so it was definitely something special.
Yeah, it was crazy because I played against Connor in high school because he went to Torrington. I went to Sacred Heart in Waterbury. So I played against him his last year. And to see his growth from that year to what I saw playing against him for Albertus versus WestCon, it was it was two different players, and it was amazing to see the work. And you mentioned his brother, who I broadcasted a couple of his games when he was playing for Torrington Legion some years back, and he was an impressive player too. He was very projectable, and I apologize. I don't know where he ended up as far as after with you, but I'm sure that his career must have gone pretty well. No.
Yeah, he was a great pitcher for us. He actually played soccer at WestCon too.
Okay.
He was actually all LEC. He was the Little East Athlete of the Year his senior year as well. I don't know his exact stats, but he was probably around a 3 ERA. Great lefty pitcher, but he might have been an even better soccer player too. Just an extremely gifted, athletic family.
Yeah, that's how. I mean, Torrington. I don't know how familiar you are with the NVL, but Naugatuck, Torrington, Seymour, they breed athletes, man, and it's just like every year they churn them out and they just keep coming.
Yeah, no, we had a Naugatuck kid last year, Corey Plasky. Same thing. It's the NVL is, as you know too. I don't have to tell you. It's just Valley kids are tough. I know Torrington's not exactly the Valley, but that whole corridor there, I played actually for the Terryville Black Sox a little bit too. That's kind of how I got going with those guys. But like you said, really, really gifted athletes, but really tough blue collar kids too, which it makes for good athletes.
Yeah, funny story. I actually coached Corey for a year. I was the pitching coach for Naugatuck. So I
Okay.
coached Corey and a lot of other very, very good players for Naugatuck. Sadly, only one decided to continue on playing college ball as far as from that group of players, Corey's well and such. But It was great to be able to see Corey continue to play because I always believed if he was 6'2", 6'3", had a little bit more meat on him, he could very easily have been drafted because his baseball IQ, the way he thought about the game, the way he played the position, and his bat was his calling card. It just seemed like it was so fluid for him.
Yeah, like you said, he had a great baseball IQ. Speaking of, he would become a phenomenal coach if he ever wanted to get into it. Has the perfect pedigree for that. But he, like you said, he was always in the right spot. He's I don't know 5'9", maybe 160 pounds. Got looked over a little bit, but he could swing it, and he just anything you asked of him, he would do. My first game coaching actually at Avery Point. We were playing a doubleheader down at Mercer, and our third baseman had some arm issues. So Corey was our second baseman, was our starting second baseman. I said, Corey, we need somebody to play third. He goes, I got you, coach. Of course, first play, kid hits a swinging bunt, Baltimore chop, comes up, makes an Ozzie Smith short hop, MLB throw on the run, gets the kid out. I was like, yeah, you do.
Hey, the ball will always find you. I mean, I was watching the Yankee game a couple days ago. Andujar was playing first base. First ball put in play, first batter, right to Andujar. The ball will find you. You can't hide from the ball.
No, that's the beautiful thing about baseball. Sometimes the scary thing is not, as you know, it's not like basketball where you can kind of, all right, go off to the corner and kind of hide, or in football you can work a kid in. You got to make the plays when the ball hits you, and you got to make those 21 or 27 outs. You got to come up and get your at bat. So that's part of the beauty of the game is there's no hiding out there for sure.
And I'm sure as far as, the opportunity that you were able to get on with UConn Avery Point, I mean, you weren't hiding by any means. How did that come about?
So actually, Kevin Gilroy, who runs All Star Batting Cage, he's a New Fairfield guy. He played at Avery Point for Coach Bidwell. I think he's still number 6 or 7 on the hits list for us. I'll take a look at the yearbook after this, make sure I don't short him anything. I'm sorry if I did, Kev, but he kind of got it in my ear. And then Dave Simone played at Avery Point, who's the Abbott Tech coach, and his dad Gary talked to me about it a little bit. My dad had familiarity with the program. He sent Kevin Moore, a couple other guys throughout the years. So for me, that's kind of how I got noticed. And then came on a recruiting trip, and Coach Bidwell, I mean, he was a heck of a coach, but in terms of recruiter, he was top notch too. Like Tony Thane from New Milford played at Avery Point before he went up to Maine. So he had the stats out of everything, and yeah, he locked me in right when I was on campus.
Now, so you were right after Coach Bidwell, correct?
No. So Mike Aldrich actually
Okay.
was here for 4 years. So he played here and then went up to UHart and played. He came back and was an assistant for a long time. And now he's coaching at Fitch. He had to finish up his master's degree, and he's teaching special ed at Fitch. So kind of worked out well. So at least for.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I can always taking over for a legend. I mean, I feel sorry for whoever takes over after, you just name the great, like Drew Brees, for the Saints, Derek Jeter to a certain degree. I don't think the Yankees have really found his replacement because I don't think Gleyber Torres is a shortstop. That's just my opinion. What do I know? But the point I'm trying to make is I think it was good for you because, your youth and because you have so much knowledge and all that, and because you know so much about the program, not having to take over after Coach Bidwell and kind of being that second person after. In my opinion, I feel like there'd be a little bit less pressure on you.
Yeah, I think I mean, even when I go out in the community, everybody always asks how coach is, and I still talk to coach. I'm kind of used to it with my father too, so it's kind of something that I tell everybody. I mean, Roger Bidwell won 1,000 games, had 3 major leaguers, and 7 World Series appearances for a reason. You can't really. I can't try to be Roger Bidwell. There's only one Roger Bidwell. I can't try to be Sean Ratchford. There's only one Sean Ratchford. So I try to take what I learned from them and apply those principles, but do things my way and do them a little bit differently. And I'm still 29-year-old Ian Ratchford from Danbury, Connecticut, so it's a little bit different than when Coach was here, but we do a lot of the same things too. So the core principles stay the same, but some of the other stuff, probably the BP music and stuff like that's a little bit different than when I was playing, but can't, like I said, I never try to, I just try to do the best that I can do and be the best Ian Ratchford and get the program back to where it should be.
Now you're close to my age. You're 29. I'm 28. We see how the game is changing. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity to talk with you about because I talked to the head coach from Tolland about this, and at first he asked me, "Oh, are you only saying it because Wade Miley threw a no hitter?" And I said, "No. Whenever a soft lefty throws a no hitter, a left-handed baby is born. So I love it. I'm not complaining." But the point I was trying to make was, I feel like the game is starting to, and the reason why I'm asking, mentioning this is because I want to ask you your opinion on this. Is that the way the game is starting to change is not in a good way, in my opinion. There's less singles, the ball is less put in play, there's more strikeouts. Last month, Major League Baseball had more strikeouts than hits, over by 1,000. The closest I think was 300 or 400. That was back in like 1918 or something like that. Do you feel like the game, do you feel the same way I do as far as the game is starting to change in a not so good way?
I think the game's certainly changing. I don't know if it's necessarily in a not so good way. I, I think the more information you have, then the better off you are. I mean, even growing up, we had a million and one different charts that we always had to do. I think the part that's frustrating for me is sometimes we're losing the feel of the game. That's where I feel. I don't think the game has necessarily changed a lot. I mean, there have certainly been some downsides, but I think the application of the information is kind of where we're losing baseball people a little bit. Like I said, the data is very good and useful stuff. But like I'm a Giants fan thinking of Bruce Bochy. The just kind of you got to go with your gut sometimes too, and I think we are losing that a little bit. And like you said, I would like to see a lot less strikeouts in the game. I think I think sometimes people lose who they are as hitters and what their strengths are. So I think we'll see a swing back though the other way and start to see some people try to beat the shift and not get so pull happy and try to use the whole field and try to cut down with two strikes. So um, yeah, I'm a little conflicted on that because I do think that there are a lot of bad things too, but I think there's a lot of great things that have come from it as well. So hopefully, I think just the application of it and not living and dying by it, and kind of getting those old school managers that were actually managers and not the GMs to make every decision. I think when we get back to that, it'll be in a really good place again.
I'll throw something else at you real quick. You think about the Tampa Bay Rays with Joe Madden when they first had Joe Madden in those early years. They were starting to shift. Nobody knew what they were doing. They make it to a World Series in 2008. They lose to the Phillies. Teams start to realize that, kind of like copying off a test, right? Pittsburgh Pirates, they have a couple years, I think 11, 12, 13, or 12, 13, 14, whatever their window was, where they made it to the playoffs consistently. I remember Russell Martin was behind the plate. Their big thing was pitch framing, stealing strikes. What happens a couple years after? That gets stolen. Would you say that teams are, and this goes for everybody, not just Major League Baseball? I'm noticing it from the college level and even the high school level here in the state. Everybody's copying off the same test. If I feel like people are afraid to go this way when other people are zigging the same way, because if they go off the wrong way and it doesn't work, they're criticized. It could cost them, as far as from the college to the pros, their job. At the high school level, you could lose players because I mean, parents want the best for their sons, and I understand that, but at the same time, you got to do what's right for them as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of people that kind of are too extreme on both ends. I think a lot of times in society, especially right now, where a lot of people on both ends that are too extreme on both sides of the spectrum there. So um, I do see it at the college level sometimes. I can remember playing against a team or coaching against a team, and they had an overshift on because we had a big righty up, and the kid hadn't pulled the ball all year, but they just looked at him and he looked like he would be somebody who would be pull happy. So I do think, like I said, I think sometimes people kind of overcoach a little bit. At the end of the day, players win games. So you want to teach them to put them in good positions, but I don't think we have enough data to say, oh, we're going to overshift on this guy at the junior college level. Now, when I coach the Westerners, I got synergy and I have every single at bat on video from all the D1 guys, and I have all their stats from freshman, sophomore, junior year, whatever grade they're in. So you can get a little bit more into it, but I've never been a huge overshift guy. But if the data shows it's right, then it's something that I've started to incorporate a little bit more. But like I said, at our level, you play a team 4 or 5 times, so that's not really a big enough sample size. So we're probably more on the conservative end with a lot of that.
Coach Ratchford, I really do appreciate you coming. I do have one more question for you real quick. As far as for the Uconn Avery Point program in of itself, and I'm sure you can't predict what, where you're going to be 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So it'd be dumb for me to ask, oh, do you see yourself coaching a D1 program 15 years from now? That'd be stupid to ask. But as far as with your time with Uconn Avery Point, what has been the common, I guess, saying term? What is your vision, I guess, each and every year that you set for yourself and for the program?
Just brick by brick, day by day, we gotta get better every day. There's always something to work on and kind of leave things better than you found them. So that's very important. Like you said, we've had a strong tradition here, so trying to leave it better. I can remember the guys who I played with here that went to 2 World Series and were national runners up. They left the program in a better shape. So trying to just create that culture again of leaving something better than you found it, and it comes day by day, just being accountable and doing what is asked of you and what's needed of you to make the team better. So that's really our mantra, is just accountability, and whatever is called upon you that day, get it done.
Coach, I wish you nothing but the best of luck the rest of the way, and stay in touch. I'd love to be able to keep hearing about UConn Avery Point, because I feel like I don't hear enough about it, and I think more people need to know kind of what JUCO is not a bad thing. I feel like a lot of kids think that JUCO 2 years, and they think that, oh, it's not really, it's just mediocre baseball. It's more competitive, I think, than some of the younger people realize. And I think the more that it's pushed out to say, hey, it's competitive. If you haven't developed enough as a player, maybe your grades were not good enough to go to Division 1, Division 2, wherever it is, you can play, get yourself better as a person, as a young man, and then be better off down the road.
Yeah, JUCO baseball unfortunately gets a bad rep sometimes, but I mean, speaking of the Tampa Bay Rays, Kevin Kiermaier, if you look back at the 2010 JUCO World Series, Avery Point beat his team and Andrelton Simmons. So there's a lot of talent out there, and the nice thing for us here is you do get that UConn education, but you do get all the benefits of junior college baseball, and you get a legit chance to play right away as a freshman and sophomore and develop your game and reach that full potential too. So that's another nice thing for us, is you do get that opportunity to grow as a young man and as a player, and it is a good opportunity to play really good baseball right away and play at a really high level, but get a chance to be on the field and actually play too. Because chances are, if you're going to another program, you might have to sit a year or two, as opposed to JUCO, where you get a chance to play right away and it's a legitimate chance. So it's definitely a good thing. So I appreciate you having me on and getting to share a little bit more about the program.
No problem, man. Stay in touch, and best of luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Town. I'm Mark Drew, to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.